Thank you everyone so much for tuning in for the Who You Can Become webinar. This is a new speaker series featuring very successful alumni who are going to talk about how FSU helped them through their journey from college to beyond in their career and all the things in between. I'm very excited for our first installment called From FSU to Wall Street. This one features Elizabeth Chang. She is a senior attorney in the New York office of Cleary and Gottlieb. She has spent more than 2 decades advising Wall Street investment banks and Fortune 500 companies. She's a proud graduate of Florida State, where she was part of the honors program and received her degree in international affairs in 1995. She received her law degree in 1999 from the Brooklyn Law School. She's married to her college sweetheart, who she met on Landis Green almost 30 years ago, and she proudly watched their son, Alex Chang, who was a 2019 presidential scholar and the homecoming chief of fall 2022, graduate from Florida State in May 2023. So I'm very excited to welcome Elizabeth, and I'll let you introduce yourself more.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, JC. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to tune in this afternoon. I really hope that you find the time useful, or even if not useful, maybe entertaining. I'm so thrilled and honored that the Florida State Honors Program would think of me as an alumni who had something to share. I want to thank, in addition to JC, who set me up so well and who's been such a dream to work with, I definitely want to thank Julie Decker, Craig Filer, and then Susan Contenti, all for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to speak with you all today.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Let's get right into your FSU experience. Could you tell us a little bit more about your time at FSU, specifically with the honors program?
Absolutely, happy to. So, I grew up in a small town in Southwest Florida, and my father he was living in New Jersey for most of that time. So I grew up with my mom in Southwest Florida. I would visit the Northeast regularly, and I honestly didn't love Southwest Florida. I'm not a beach girl. I really wanted oak trees and hills, and thought that I was going to have to go to college in the Northeast in order to get that in high school, because I'd never really been anywhere in Florida much above Orlando. In high school, I had the opportunity to participate in something called Girls State, which is a government program where the culminates in actually a trip to Tallahassee and working in the Capitol building as a like pretend Senate situation. And I stayed at Landis Green. And fell in love with Florida State. I know that hill from Landis all the way down and then up into where the cafeteria used to be, where you all have the beautiful student center. I know that that is tough on the legs, but that hill convinced me that I could pay in-state tuition, benefit from in-state scholarships, but still be in an environment that for me felt very authentically a college environment. It got hot, but we also could wear sweaters sometimes, and we had beautiful big oak trees. So I was very blessed with that opportunity. And because of my grades in high school, I qualified for the honors program and received some scholarships, which was really important to my family to be able to have me go to college at all. So in the honors program, we didn't have presidential scholars back then or anything like that. But what I did get right off the bat was more individualized attention. One of the things that can be challenging about Florida State is how large it is. It's also one of the best things about Florida State, in my opinion. And the honors program really allowed me to get those smaller class sizes, to have one-on-one interactions with my professors. It also allowed me to go a little deeper into the specific areas of academia that I had an interest in. It also helped me through starting out in Landis, in the dorm Landis, with my fellow honor students. I right away felt like I had that community that made a very big university feel a little smaller and feel like I could navigate it.
That's amazing. What are some of your favorite memories at FSU?
Oh, there are so many, several of which I will not share publicly. But So I was at Florida State from 1991 to 1995, which means smack dab in the middle, we won our national championship in
Mhm.
1993. And um, I'm a huge sports fan, really big football fan. My now husband, then boyfriend, was as well. And so just those moments of that season in particular of being in Doak Campbell, um, and then the away games, all the football parties, that was just wonderful. Like we had so much fun and felt so much Seminole pride through that, particular year when we finally won the national championship. That felt great. Um, I also have very fond memories. I was very involved in InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. And so I have really so many fond memories of all of the different club activities we would do. We would do sort of like crazy scavenger hunts together, including we put roadkill on the list for this one of the scavenger hunts. Like someone literally did bring a bag of roadkill. That's one of my favorite memories. Um, and I would say finally, I have some really happy memories of very personal interactions I had my senior year with one of my religion professors in particular. We became very close over the years, and she was kind enough before I graduated to invite me over to have a dinner with her family. I got to meet her children, and I'm a very people motivated person. I love the work, but I love the people more. And so that really meant a lot to me, that I could develop that bond with her and be invited into her world. So those are just a few.
Yeah, those are great. You mentioned your husband. Would you
Yes.
mind giving us some details about your love story?
Yeah, no, happy to. I would not allow him to be on the Zoom because I knew I'd be too nervous. So that tells you something about our love story. But so David, my husband David, was an international student at Florida State. So he had completed 2 years at a community college in Orlando and then had his choice to transfer to a major Florida university. I was a freshman, so he was a junior. And he really wanted to go, I don't even know if it still exists anymore, to a college called Florida International, um, and he never heard back with his application letter. He just never heard back. He got into Florida State. He decided to go. 2 weeks after he moved into Florida State, he got an acceptance letter from the Florida International University. So I always like to say it was meant to be because
Yeah.
obviously, if he wasn't at FSU, we never would have met. But we were both part of InterVarsity together. And I just was very fascinated, just with who he was, with his backstory, with his personality, his generosity was remarkable. And we started dating, I guess, my sophomore year, and we got married a month after I graduated from Florida State. So I worked in Sturger Library on work study, and he would wait outside for me on the little patio, and we would
Aw.
go and have, all sorts of conversations and dates and just times together on Landis Green. So we always say that's really where we fell in love. But we raised both our boys to be Seminoles, and Alex was here and just graduated. Our youngest, Nicholas, applied, almost went there, but he's decided in the end to go somewhere else. I think mainly because he didn't want to follow in everybody's footsteps anymore.
I love that. That's so cute.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
so you have a very unique position where you were a student to an alumna and then a parent. Could
Yeah.
you explain that journey?
Yeah, thank you for asking. It has been very unique and incredibly rewarding. I mean, the first thing I'll say, in case he is listening in, is that Alex completely made the Florida State experience his own. If anything, David and I would continually laugh and say, like, okay, I don't know where this came from, because he dove into areas of campus life, leadership opportunities that David and I never even would have dreamed of. But I will say, which was just wonderful and very rewarding to see, what was consistent though was the pride that we had in the university, the gratitude that we had. And, David, from an international student experience, which wasn't all that common 30 years ago, to be fair, like I think David was actually the first student in the School of Business, international student in the School of Business, to secure a job through on campus interviewing. Like it just
Wow.
wasn't a common thing. To
Mhm.
my experience as an honor student, to Alex's experience as a presidential scholar, across the board, the support and the room there was for each of us to create our very unique Florida State experience but at the same time, we all were supported. We all learned so much. We all were elevated, and we all just graduated passionately loving the school and feeling that sense of gratitude. It was also very rewarding to see the way the honors program in particular had changed, and under the leadership of the late um, Dean Laughlin, who was part of our recruiting process and really important to me in being comfortable sending Alex to Florida State, to what she and Dr. Filer and all the rest have done with the honors program and then the presidential scholars program. It just makes me so proud, both as an alum and a former honor student, and then also as a parent to one. So just very grateful.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know we have some law students on here. We have some international affairs students. So let's ask some questions about your career.
Super.
What made you choose to pursue a career in law?
Yeah, so we touched on this a little bit with a few of the students that were on earlier, but I was not the person who, since the age of 6 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 12, said, I want to be a lawyer. Um, I think sometimes that label was put on me because there is a public perception that if you are clear in your speech, if you are remotely assertive, if you like to argue, which I don't even know what that means, then you have to be a lawyer. So people tried to put that label on me. I mean, PS, none of the lawyering I do, like, I don't argue with people all day. I'm a contract lawyer, but we'll get to that in a minute. So it's not really accurate. I think I pushed away from that. But when I was a junior at Florida State, I knew that I wanted to pursue another path of education. I had just learned, I loved learning, loved the academic life, and I wasn't ready to give it up. So law school made good sense to me. But even when I applied in my applications, I made clear that I wasn't yet convinced I wanted to practice law. What I knew is that I wanted to learn the law. And that's one of the beauties about law, because there are a multitude of opportunities once you get that law degree. Yes, you can lead to practice, and obviously that is the path that I eventually chose. But there are so many other opportunities where a law degree can support you and open those doors. And so all I really knew was that I wanted to keep learning, and that law school seemed to be the right environment for me to keep learning.
So you mentioned that you don't argue all day and that your job is a little different than what people view lawyers as. Could you
Yes.
tell us more about that?
Yeah, 100%. So I appreciate the question too. I love legal thrillers, legal dramas, John Grisham, all the rest. Like, I will be the first one to watch all of those. Ally McBeal, Suits, The Nine. Like, I love them. But that is not my life whatsoever. Um, when I was choosing what area of law to start practicing once I graduated from law school and got a job offer here at Cleary, the two big areas of law really are litigation or corporate, especially with business law. Litigation is what you see in the news, in TV, and in movies. It's folks who write briefs, who show up in court, who stand in front of a judge, who argue for opposing positions. And there's such value in that. But that is not me. I am a bridge builder. I am like the ultimate team player. I don't really like raising my voice. I don't think very well on my feet. I need to like make notes if I'm speaking in front of people. So I knew pretty much right away that that kind of law didn't fit my innate talents and gifts. And if I tried to morph myself into that, it wouldn't be authentic, it wouldn't be sustainable, and in all likelihood, it wouldn't be successful. But what I do love to do is read and analyze what I'm reading. What I do love to do is help parties that all want to achieve the same objective, but they have different priorities. I love helping them bridge those gaps to get to the deal. So it really made sense that I would become a deal lawyer. And that's like sort of I'm a capital markets lawyer. So I actually advise companies and investment banks when they're issuing stocks and bonds into the market. New York Stock Exchange listings, IPOs, all of that. That's what I do. And it's so exciting because, yes, I have to argue with people. Yes, there are positions that I have to take for the benefit of my client. I would say 80% of what I do, we're all on the same page. And so
Mhm.
I can call my opposing counsel and say, hey, I think you didn't realize there was a typo there. That's not really what you meant to say. And that's good. And that really is authentically me. And so I was really excited that I could be a lawyer and be a successful one, but not be Ally McBeal, because that's just not who I am. I don't know, probably you're all too young to even know who Ally McBeal is.
I like how you mentioned being true to yourself because I feel like the students on this call, even if you're not going into law, you should be authentic in whatever career path you choose. So thank you for saying that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How did the honors program prepare you
Mm,
for your law degree or going on to
absolutely.
law school?
Yep. So I gave this one a little thought because, as you can tell, I wasn't a pre-law major. I wasn't even a poli-sci major. I chose international affairs as my major intentionally because I wanted to be multidisciplinary, and I was really interested in religion. I was actually made the religion majors angry because I ended up being like religion student of the year for a couple of years in a row, even though I wasn't a religion major. I was an international affairs major because I just loved it. I loved everything that it required. And so I thought about this question because I can't say that the substantive topics that I learned in the honors program prepared me for law school. But the honors program and Florida State prepared me for law school because I got to know myself in the process, and I got to know professors in the process, and I got to know what it feels like when I am passionate about what I'm doing and when I can dig deep and dive deep into that. And all of that I used in law school. It helped me figure out what classes I wanted to take and what sort of types of law were a match for me and what weren't. And now here at Cleary, it still helps me in the same way to really try to marry what is important to me with the work that needs to be done, and are there ways that I can contribute that are unique and authentic to me. I would also say that the rigor started in the Florida State Honors Program for me. I loved my high school, and I'm sure other people have had different experiences. I took a lot of honors classes in high school, but it just wasn't all that challenging, to be honest. I know now there's like IB and all these things that are very, very rigorous, but for me, the honors program was really the first time where someone looked at me and said, okay, that's great, but you can stretch a little further. And that was such an important message. Even again, if the substance that we were talking about was, comparing comparative Islamic studies, didn't matter. Because what they were saying was, you can go further. I see the potential in you, and I want you to go that extra mile. And that has really been foundational to the striving and the excellence that I fall short of on a regular basis, but that I'm always striving for. I really credit the honors program with that.
Yeah, I think a lot of the students listening now would echo that as well. What are some of your proudest moments as an attorney?
Mm. So there's three that come to mind. One is just recently, I was asked to design a program for our first year lawyers. So Cleary Gottlieb is an international law firm. It's very well respected. It's sort of top 10 internationally. And here in the New York office, we have like 1,000 lawyers. And every year we get litigation first years and corporate first years. And the corporate first years, I was asked to design basically an assimilation, education, and support program for them in particular, because they'll spend their first year here at Cleary not dedicated to one particular practice group, but trying all different types of corporate law. And that's great for their professional development, but it could make you feel a little unmoored. And so it's right up my alley. I love junior lawyers. I love young people in general. I love being supportive and, speaking the truth to them, but hopefully in a kind way. And so I had the opportunity, along with our legal development team, to design this program. We rolled it out last year and it was wildly successful. And so we're in year two. That's been great. I'll give you one other example of something I'm really proud of. Cleary represented one of the large bank holding companies during the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, when the government, it was sort of the bailout of the big banks. You can watch it in The Big Short. If you guys haven't watched The Big Short, you should. Just excuse all the bad language. So I was part of the core representative team there for that, and helping the government make those investments into the private companies. And then as soon as those investments were made and the financial crisis was calm, helping the government sell out their position, because obviously the US government does not want to be a stockholder in a private company for very long. And it was really an honor to work both helping bridge that crisis, but then helping the government get their investment back, making sure taxpayers did not pay the price for what was happening, as far as I had any control over. And that was a very proud moment for me, that my private practice could that have that kind of national um, scope and implication. So that's just a
And
couple.
that brought on a question from the audience, and they
Yeah.
said, can you please share some information about your investing journey?
Um,
And it says, please share some mindset strengthening tips.
oh, okay. Yeah. So, I investing journey. I guess maybe investing in myself. Or Benoit, if I'm getting that wrong, just shoot another question there and I'll read it for you. But um, for mindset strengthening, that I identify with that. That makes sense to me. I think a couple of things that I wish I had done better. I want to be really honest that I'm speaking to you now with almost 30 years of experience that probably most of you don't have. My 20-year-old self didn't know and probably wouldn't believe a lot of what my almost 50-year-old self believes to be true today. But what I wish I would have done a little better job of back then to strengthen my mindset is something that I think was made popular on Love Island, this idea of backing yourself. Like, I wish I had backed myself more. I think that for a variety of reasons that we will not get into, I think that there had trailed with me from Florida State a little, not because of Florida State, but from my college experience, a little feeling that this girl from a small trailer park in South Florida did not belong on Wall Street, surrounded by people with Ivy League pedigrees, with very different socioeconomic backgrounds than me. And I wish that it didn't take me quite as long as it has, and I'm still working on it, to back myself. So one thing I would just encourage, to the capacity that you have as a young adult, to believe in yourself, to be okay if what you truly desire is different than what everybody else is saying they desire. I understand in the culture today, there's a lot of pressure, but if you can work at identifying what really drives you, what makes you happy, what wakes you up in the morning, and honor that, and then allow these other academic or professional pursuits to follow that passion to the greatest extent you can. I think that there is a longevity you'll find. Whereas, yeah, you can force yourself to be someone that maybe you aren't for a short period of time, but I'm not sure that you'll have that longevity. So, yeah, I would probably say, and then the last thing I'll say is surround yourself with people who challenge you, who are different than you. College is amazing opportunity for that. You will probably never be in an environment as diverse as the one that you are at for the next 4 years, because people are from all over the world, from all over the country, from even the same state, but with a very different background than you. And you're all together as Seminoles for these 4 years. So take advantage of that. Have people challenge you, have people um, inspire and excite you, but also have those people in your lives that are going to cheer for you no matter what, because that is so valuable when the challenges come. So Benoit, I don't know if that's helpful. I hope that it was. But that's sort of what I would say about sort of strengthening your mindset.
Yeah, that was really inspiring too. So thank you. And that leads to another question. This is more advice for someone who wants a career in international business law. Do you have any specific piece of advice for those students?
Yeah, I do. So a couple of things I would say there, again, things that I didn't necessarily do. I really stayed too far away from numbers and technology. I intentionally took like a basic computing class in 1991 when I entered Florida State, which basically like, the computers were gigantic. They were like as big as this room because I didn't want to take any more math. That was a mistake. In law school, I should have taken accounting for lawyers. In undergrad, I should have taken basic accounting, basic tax, basic business finance. Now, not if you want to be a DA or a prosecutor or well, even if you want to be a family lawyer. I mean, it's hard to practice law without numbers. And I made a mistake in just being so excited about writing those papers and reading, everything that I read that I went too far that way. So that is one bit of advice that I would strongly recommend is that you give yourself the business background as well. It doesn't mean you have to get a JD MBA, although that's a wonderful opportunity. But some of those intro level classes, read the Wall Street Journal. Just reading the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times will start helping you understand the way this bizarre world of Wall Street works. The other thing I would say is, oh shoot, there was something. Oh no, that was the two things. Don't shy away from numbers and start to expose yourself to trustworthy financial news and information because that just underlies everything you do in business law.
Those are really great tips. And with that, we can open it up to the audience Q&A. We already got some in, but if you have a question, please click the Q&A button and you can type it in and I will read it out loud.
So I saw
So
one more from Tegan, JC. Is that okay if we address that one
yeah.
about the law school? So
Mhm.
Tegan says, as law school applicants are starting to hear back on various decisions from law schools, why did you choose Brooklyn? That's a great question. Not because it was a punchline joke and My Cousin Vinny. And if you haven't watched My Cousin Vinny, I highly recommend it. And you'll hear the Brooklyn Law School joke there. Um, for me, it was a very practical decision. My husband and I knew that we wanted to be in the New York City area. He's originally from Hong Kong. That's where he grew up. And so we had lived in Florida between FSU, getting married, and having our newlywed life for 5 years or more at that point, and we were both ready for a big city experience. So we knew we wanted to be in this area. I was lucky enough to be admitted to some more prestigious law schools than like by rankings or whatever than Brooklyn. But my choice to go to law school, because I wasn't sure I wanted to practice law, I wanted to be really careful about debt. And I know people have very different and personal views on that. So I'm not, you know, advocating anything. I'm just telling you my story. I didn't want to graduate from law school saddled with a significant amount of debt because we wanted to have a house and a family at that point, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to practice law. And even if I was sure I wanted to practice law, there's no guarantee that a law degree will necessarily mean that you'll be financially easy and be able to do that. So I chose Brooklyn Law School because it had a solid local reputation. It was an up and coming school, so there were opportunities to be the first to do this, or they were always looking to advance their top students. And the third and very honest reason is they offered me scholarships and housing, and a lot of these other law schools said, sure, you can come here, but you can pay X amount, and we're not going to give you anything. And that just wasn't acceptable for my life plan.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then it looks like we got a question in the chat. I'm a current junior who is majoring in risk management and insurance and
Mhm.
wants to eventually go to law school. I have heard insurance law is heavily contractual. Is this
Yeah.
accurate? And in your opinion, are there opportunities to work in international business law with an insurance and law degree?
So excellent questions. And I wish you all the best in that. I think there's different ways to like the sort of insurance law is thought about in different ways. There's definitely an aspect of it that is related to the contract. So the underwriting, and you're going to forgive me if I get the terms wrong, but the underwriting of the insurance policy. So there's negotiation there for sure. I will also say, though, that sometimes insurance law can actually mean litigation. It means defending insurance companies against false claims or other types of claims that come against them. Or insurance law can mean that you represent plaintiffs who are suing insurance companies for not upholding their policy decisions, et cetera. So I'm not sure. For some reason, I don't think I can see these questions, which is fine. I'm not sure which one of those you're thinking about, but certainly insurance law, there would be a lot of contract interpretation, some amount of contract drafting, but then there's also this litigation aspect, which is very prevalent in insurance law.
Thank you. And then we had anything you wish you would have done differently in undergrad?
Wow, we really don't have the time for that one, but I thank you for the question. Um, the biggest one I already mentioned, which is simply that's my internal work, which is I wish I had a little more faith in myself. More practically and maybe more generally applicable, um, I wish that I had identified one or two other professors, sort of taken them up on those opportunities to get to know them on a more personal basis. I was very blessed with the one that I mentioned earlier, and we stayed close actually for years after law school, after college, which was a huge blessing. But I think I held some of my professors at more of an arm's length than A, I needed to, B, they wanted me to. Um, out of respect, out of reverence, out of a feeling of like, oh, they wouldn't want to talk to me. That's garbage. So I wish that I would have gone to those office hours, gotten to know the professor and allowed them to get to know me as a person, not just a student in their class. Because again, I'm super relational and I don't
Mhm.
remember the chapters of, my Chinese history textbook, but I remember the people. And I wish that there were a few more that I had invested the time in.
Yes, relationships are key no matter what career
Yeah,
you
for
go
sure.
into. Someone said a comment. She said, "It is great to see a girl skater. Thank you for your time." Just a
Yay, go
nice
Girl
comment.
State. I'm glad they're still doing that. That's great. I loved it. It was awesome.
Do you want to explain more about what that is for
Oh,
those
sure. Yeah,
listening who don't know?
yes. So that is yeah, it's a high school program. I guess they still have it where you apply. Oh gosh, this was a really long time ago now because it was high school. But basically, I wrote an essay and applied, and I was like a delegee, like a pretend delegee. It's basically to teach women about the way state government runs. And so you get these high school women from all different high schools and you assign them different, like I was on the environmental committee and I helped write a bill and we proposed the bill in the Florida State Senate with like the microphones and like the voting buttons and stuff. And it's to expose women to politics, which is a very valuable exposure, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it was great.
Someone asks, "What do you think of opportunities to work as a lawyer in Florida specifically?"
Yeah, so here's an interesting, this is a very timely question. My life is here in the Northeast. We're not planning on relocating anytime soon. Um, but I think actually Florida is an exceptional place to practice law. Um, I recently discovered through some work that I'm doing in the crypto space right now that Miami in particular is a hotbed for crypto finance. So, for example, which I didn't know, I know there's a lot of crypto mining um, rigs in Texas because of their energy situation and all of that. But I had no idea that Miami in particular was such a hotbed for crypto finance. I mentioned that only because A, I just learned it last week, but B, I think that when you think about practicing law in Florida, I think right away people think trust and estates, God bless all the elderly, um, real estate. And then obviously there's always family law and things like that. But I think there's more business law and more finance law than I even realized. The one thing I will say to sort of counter the positives is think there are a lot of lawyers in Florida. And as is true with any profession, right, or really any commodity, there's supply and demand. And
Mhm.
so I don't have statistics on this. This is literally just my impression. But I think that it's something to take into consideration when deciding on a career. Okay, I love real estate law, but how many real estate lawyers are there in Florida? Do I think that there's room for more? Or do I want to try to specialize and do something that's a little bit different so that I can set myself apart and sort of guarantee myself, that I can support myself and a family with this career? So I hope that was helpful. Again, I don't have statistics. That's just my impression.
That's a really great point. Someone asked, what are your favorite resources to learn more about current issues impacting business law and the intersection of these two?
Yes, great question. So there's a couple of things that I really love now. I'm going to try to think though which of these. So again, I'm not super political, so please understand I'm just letting you know like what I enjoy. I started reading the Wall Street Journal when I was my first year at Cleary. I wish that I had started it sooner, because the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times, which is a British newspaper. If you're not familiar with it, it comes out, of the UK, but everything's online nowadays. Or even, I guess, CNN or whatever your preference, the finance page. Um, but they talk about, like, the Wall Street Journal talks about legal topics all the time. There are also publications, I don't honestly read them, but like monthly publications on business law in particular. But I would probably do a more broad financial newspaper. And then there are a couple of really funny blogs. Again, they might be too advanced, like too Wall Street specific for you guys, but I'm just throw it out there. There's an ex-banker, ex-lawyer, ex-banker named Matt Levine who does like it's not even every day, it's like a couple times a week, and he tells crazy stories about Wall Street, and almost always there's legal aspects to whatever anybody's doing. That one I find very entertaining. And then the last one I'd recommend, but I have to admit this one's probably a little too technical for where you all right now are. But there is a daily email called the Corporate Counsel, which is written by business lawyers, and it's intended to support in-house lawyers who often are working alone or with a very small team. I mean, I'm blessed. I have colleagues all over the world who will answer my questions when I have them. When you're a corporate counsel, you're working in-house at a company and you don't necessarily have 100 other lawyers to ask questions of. So the purpose of this daily email is to help those internal lawyers feel like they have more support. It speaks to legal topics of the day. It's called the Corporate Counsel. I think it's free to subscribe, but again, it may be a little too technical on the legal side for you right now, but those are the things that I rely on.
Those are really great suggestions. And for those watching, we can send that out in the follow-up email. So you have those, so you can look them up after. Do we have any more questions? We did get a really nice comment that I want to read to you. It says, sending gratitude for this discussion, lucky enough to know the Changs and seeing their influence through Florida State during my time in undergrad and graduate school. Amazing embodiment of the principles that the school upholds.
Okay, I literally didn't even have to look who that was from. I know that was from Lily Savage. I love you too.
So sweet.
One of my favorite Seminoles. Oh, thank you for taking the time. This has been so much fun. Any other questions? I don't even know what time it is. Maybe it's close to wrap up time, maybe?
Yeah, we have about 5 more minutes.
Okay, great. I was
All
looking at
right,
my
well,
notes to see if I forgot anything else.
and if anyone has any questions after, you can send them in too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And listen, like, I'm not going to pretend to be able to mentor all of you, because I really can't. But um, my my work email is public. If you think that there is a question you have, something I can do to support you, I will do my best. If you reach out on my work email, I will do my best to get back to you, because we all love Florida State, and we all want to see you really succeed. Um, just remember to back yourself more than you think you should, more than you think you could. You can. So I hope you remember that.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to speak with all of us and the students. It's been really fun talking with you and just hearing all of your really inspiring stories and insights. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
It was such a pleasure. Go Knowles. Have a wonderful experience. I promise you, you're going to be like me 30 years from now. Oh, the good old days. So just enjoy every moment. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to participate. It's been such a joy.
Yes, and thank you all so much for tuning in.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a good
All
night,
right.
everyone. Thank
Bye bye.
you.
Thank you.